So it's been a while since I recorded something like this. I used to do it quite a bit. But today a few things popped up this morning in our worship and I just felt the need to share it with others. For those who don't know, we have a bigger team now than we used to have. So it means that if we're not rotated to do something specific on a Sunday morning, the minister that isn't is able to sit in the congregation with everyone else and to worship with everyone else and to be fed spiritually just like everyone else, which is a real gift that we can receive from time to time. And this morning I was able to do that at St Martin's. I was able to sit in the congregation and just take in the service like everybody else. And a couple of things popped up. So I wasn't preaching today, so I hadn't really paid much attention yet to what the readings were. I knew that the Sunday what we were celebrating was Christ the King, but hadn't actually read through this, the reading sheet to see what the readings were for the day. At St Martin's, we have the Psalm as well as the two readings, the Old Testament and New Testament, and then the Gospel. We also say the Psalm. And as we turned to the Psalm, I realised it was Psalm 46. And I don't even know how to explain it really. It was a significant thing to see Psalm 46 printed there because Psalm 46 verse 10 is a verse that over the years, particularly since I started the discernment process for ministry, which is almost 10 years ago now, until this point, it's a verse that pops up when I need it the most, but usually when I least expect it. Psalm 46 verse 10, be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. As I say, it's popped up over the years when I've needed it the most, when things have seemed out of control, when I've been questioning whether I'm really called to this, when things have been crazy busy, in the good times, the bad times, the happy times, the sad times, everything in between. When I've needed the reminder that God's got this, that verse has popped up when I've least expected it. And it's been amazing really over the years where it's popped up and where I've seen it when I really shouldn't have seen it there. So today, as I say, I hadn't looked ahead to what the readings were and I turned to the sheet to read the Psalm, and there is Psalm 46 verse 10 staring at me in the face. Be still and know that I am God. And I'm glad it popped up today. I think I needed it to pop up today. It was good to see it there. So I just want to share that with everyone really. It might be that you have your own favourite Bible verse that you hold on to. It might be that you have a phrase or a poem or something that you find helpful. But if you don't, then I share this verse with you to hold on to when you need it the most. Be still and know that I am God. When life seems out of control and we're not sure about next steps or whatever, that reminder just to be still. Know that I am God. We don't have to try and be God. We don't have to make sense of everything all the time. It's a good reminder to let God be God and to trust really in him and all that he does for us. So I commend that verse to you today. Be still and know that I am God. It's a good one to repeat over and over again. There's a prayer, a style of prayer where you breathe in and breathe out on the Jesus prayer is a traditional one, but you can use any verse, and I think that's a good one to breathe in, be still, and breathe out and know that I am God. Over and over again, be still and know that I am God. I hope it helps someone else today like it did me when it reached out to me unexpectedly, but as I say, when I needed it without even realising. The gospel reading for today talked about Jesus on the cross and the people hanging next to him. One of them just ridiculing him and not being very nice at all, and the other one asking for forgiveness and asking for Jesus to remember him when he gets into his kingdom. And Jesus doesn't just say, "Yep, I'll remember you, that's fine." He doesn't say, "Don't talk to me, you've not been very nice up until this point," anything like that. He said to him, "Today you will be with me in paradise. Today you will be with me in paradise." And I always find those words hugely powerful. I always think about an experience I had on Good Friday a few years ago when I was visiting a man in the hospice who was really struggling to come to terms with the life that he had led, who needed forgiveness when he knew he was dying. And I was confident after our conversation, if we could call it that I could say to him that on Good Friday, that day where he was starting the journey towards his own death, that when his time came, he would be with Jesus in paradise. And that conversation changed him. He was at peace and he died the next morning. I'll never ever forget that time spent with him. It was a very special time. And every time I hear those words, "You will be with me in paradise," he is one I think of. But I find it hugely comforting that man hanging beside Jesus on the cross, that man who had done so much wrong, asked for so little, really. He asked for Jesus to remember him. But Jesus, in true Jesus fashion, offered so much more. "I'm not just going to remember you. You will be with me in paradise." As he hung on his own cross, bearing the weight of the sins of all humankind, he promised, "You will be with me in paradise." It always comforts me to think of that. I hope it's a comfort to others. That whatever happens, whatever we do, however much we might think that it'll be, nice if Jesus could even remember us, let alone anything else. He loves us. He's always loved us and will always love us. And as I reflected on that this morning, the sunlight was just shining through the window over the mural of the crucifixion. And I could just picture that conversation happening. It felt like a bit of an emotional morning, to be fair, when I was given that gift of being able to sit and worship and reflect alongside everyone else. So whatever mood we find ourselves in today, whatever we're facing, whatever difficulties might arise, I just like that we can hold on to those two things that I felt helpful today. That we can just be still and know that God is God, that he walks alongside us on the journey, and that we can ask Jesus for so little, but he's prepared to give us so much more. And sometimes it's us holding ourselves back from reaching out to him and to allowing ourselves to be embraced by that love that we so long for. You will be with me in paradise. I won't just be remembering, you'll be with me in paradise. What a special gift to hold on to. The other thing Jesus said on the cross was, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." On the cross, he forgave. So if we can't forgive ourselves for something, let's try and hand it over to him, who forgave even at that point on the cross, where those people mocked him and shouted abuse at him and all of that. And from a hymn that we sang this morning, again, all this stuff was very connected in my brain. These words were just so powerful as we sang them together. Father's pure radiance, perfect in innocence, yet learns obedience to death on a cross, suffering to give us life, conquering through sacrifice, and as they crucify, praise, Father, forgive. One last thing while I think of it, and we're talking about paradise and those who now worship with God in that great light. At St Albans, I wore the chasuble set that my nan bought for me when I was ordained priest. And at both churches, the last hymn was my nan's favourite hymn. And I said that before we sang it at St Albans. Bad move. Gets me a bit emotional every time. But I miss this woman terribly. She was my absolute hero. She faced so much stuff in her life, and she was one of the strongest people that I've ever met. She died in the middle of the pandemic, not from COVID, but still in the middle of the pandemic. So we couldn't see her really before. We didn't get to see each other properly afterwards. She did not have the funeral that it would have been had COVID not been around. And in lots of ways, I still don't believe that she is gone. Even though I stood up there taking her service for her funeral, I don't believe that she's no longer here, because she was such an important person in my life for my whole life, and always will be, of course. But I just want to acknowledge here, with all of the emotions and all of the things that I've been thinking about today, that I miss her and others who I've loved and lost, and I'll always miss her. And I feel sad about that today, even though I know she's okay. And I'm very much who I am today because of her influence in my life, as well as many others. So while I'm giving permission, not that anyone needs permission to feel or do anything, but while I'm giving us this space, I just want to say that it's okay to feel sad and remember and miss people that we have loved and lost, people that we have loved, who maybe we don't see anymore, even if they've not actually died. I see so many people hurting because a loved one is now estranged from them and they do not know where they are. Or their loved one has been taken over by the grips of dementia and they really don't know who they are. Someone who has lost a loved one to an illness that was quick, and the shock is still hard to come to terms with. Some people who have nursed loved ones for months or years until their death. People who are young and we cry out like, why? How? People that live to the great ages of over 90 like my nan. But we still cry out, why? Because the cost of loving is the pain that we feel when they're no longer here, in whatever way that is. So use this space, use this time to acknowledge those feelings, to feel what we need to feel. I certainly am today. But as I do, I'm holding on to the promises of Jesus, that my loved ones are with him in paradise, and the promise of God to be still and know that he is God. Every day, always, for me and for you.